The hum of the server room was a familiar comfort. For the past 6 months, it had been my second home. Late nights fueled by lukewarm coffee and the quiet satisfaction of building something complex, something potentially revolutionary for our company. Our new data analysis platform, codenamed Apex, was finally ready for its big debut, a pitch presentation to a group of potential investors who could provide the funding to take it to the next level. I was the lead architect on Apex. I designed the core algorithms, overseen the development team, and built the intricate data pipelines from the ground up. It was my baby, born from countless hours of coding, testing, and refining in our Chicago office, high above the bustling Loop. The pitch meeting was scheduled for Thursday morning. I'd been working closely with Mark, our head of innovation, and David, a senior project manager, on the presentation deck. My slides focused on the technical architecture, the unique capabilities of Apex, and the scalable infrastructure I'd designed. Mark was handling the market opportunity and financial projections, and David was covering the implementation timeline and team structure. 2 days before the pitch, Mark called me into his office. The space was minimalist, all glass and polished, concrete, a stark contrast to the controlled chaos of my own desk. "Have a seat, Sarah," he said, gesturing to a sleek chair. He had that look, the one that meant a corporate decision was about to be delivered, often without much room for discussion. We finalized the presentation lineup. He began, adjusting his tie. "David and I will be handling the core pitch to the investors. You'll be in the room, of course, available for technical questions during the Q&A." My stomach dropped. "But I built Apex," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "My slides cover the technical foundation, the part that makes it unique." "We understand your contribution, Sarah," David interjected smoothly. He was sitting in the corner chair, observing with an almost detached air. "But the investors need to see a unified front. Mark and I have the seniority and the broader strategic overview. We'll cover the technical aspects at a high level. I felt a knot tightening in my chest. Apex's strength is in its technical detail, the custom algorithms, the real-time processing capabilities. That's what sets it apart. I can explain that better than anyone." Mark held up a hand, signaling the end of the discussion. "Your work is invaluable, Sarah. Absolutely invaluable. But pitching is about selling the vision, the business case. David and I are best positioned to do that. You'll be there to back us up if they dive deep into the code, which is unlikely. The word felt like a dismissal. They were cutting me out of the crucial part, reducing my role to that of a backup, a technical support person for the project I had poured my life into. I nodded, masking my disappointment behind a professional facade. "Understood. I'll be ready for Q&A." Leaving Mark's office, I felt a mix of frustration and hurt. It wasn't just about ego. It was about the project itself. Apex deserved to be presented by someone who understood its nuances, its potential, its soul. But corporate politics had dictated otherwise. Despite the setback, I spent the next day preparing. I reviewed every line of code, every diagram, every data point. I anticipated every possible technical question an investor might ask. I wasn't going to present the core strategy, but if they asked about what made Apex work, I would be ready to explain it with absolute clarity and confidence. I printed out my detailed slides, even the ones they wouldn't be using, and organized them in a binder, just in case. Thursday morning arrived, crisp and sunny, a typical late spring day in Chicago. The investors were a group of 5 partners from a prominent venture capital firm based in Silicon Valley, known for their sharp questions and analytical approach. The meeting room was set up formally, a large table, water bottles, notepads, and a projector screen displaying our company logo. Mark and David took their places at the front, laptops open. I sat quietly at the side of the table, feeling strangely detached from the proceedings, like a parent watching someone else present their child to the world. Mark started with the market opportunity, delivering a polished overview of the industry landscape. David followed with the business model and financial projections, speaking confidently about potential revenue streams. They moved on to Apex, describing its capabilities in broad strokes: cutting edge, scalable, transformative. They used the buzzwords, hit the key points from the executive summary, but something felt missing. The depth, the passion, the understanding of how it actually worked. The investors listened attentively, occasionally scribbling notes. When Mark and David finished their prepared remarks, Mark opened the floor for questions. The questions started politely, about market size and competitive landscape. Mark and David handled them smoothly. Then, one of the investors, a woman with sharp eyes named Miss Chen, leaned forward. "You've spoken about the platform's unique analytical capabilities," she said, her voice calm but direct. "Specifically, the real-time data processing and predictive modeling. Can you walk us through the underlying architecture that enables this? How are you handling data ingestion at scale while maintaining low latency for the predictive layer?" Mark paused, a flicker of uncertainty crossing his face. "Right, well, the architecture is robust," he stammered slightly. "It's designed for high throughput. We're utilizing cloud infrastructure, of course," David jumped in. "We have a distributed system in place. It's built on modern frameworks to ensure scalability." Their answers were generic, high-level, lacking the specific details that would demonstrate a true understanding of the system's innovation. Miss Chen nodded slowly, but her expression remained unconvinced. Another investor, a man named Mr. Lee, spoke up. "Your deck mentions proprietary algorithms for anomaly detection," he said. "Can you elaborate on the methodology there? What's the false positive rate, and how does your model adapt to evolving data patterns?" Mark and David exchanged a quick, uneasy glance. This was my territory, the algorithms I had spent months developing and fine-tuning. David attempted an answer, using terms like machine learning and pattern recognition, but he couldn't provide specific details on the methodology or performance metrics. He was reading from notes, not speaking from understanding. The air in the room grew tense. The investors weren't getting the answers they needed about the core technology they were being asked to fund. Miss Chen looked directly at Mark and David. "You've presented a compelling business case," she said, "but the heart of this platform, what makes it truly innovative, seems to be the underlying technology. And frankly, the answers we're getting about that technology are superficial." She paused, then her gaze swept across the room, landing on me sitting quietly at the side table. I met her eyes, a silent acknowledgement passing between us. "Who built this?" she asked, her voice cutting through the silence. "Who designed the architecture, developed these algorithms? Where's the one who did the deep dive, the one who understands the engine driving this platform?" All eyes turned to me. Mark and David looked visibly uncomfortable. Mark cleared his throat. "That would be Sarah," he said, gesturing towards me with a reluctant wave. Sarah was the lead architect on Apex. "She's here to answer any technical questions." Miss Chen smiled slightly. "Excellent. Sarah, please come up here. Tell us about the engine." I stood up, my heart pounding, but a surge of adrenaline replacing the earlier frustration. I walked to the front of the room, taking my place beside the projector. Mark and David shifted awkwardly, making space for me. I clicked to my detailed slides, the ones they hadn't used. I started explaining the microservices architecture, the choice of database technologies, the real-time data ingestion pipeline I designed using Kafka. I described the custom anomaly detection algorithm, explaining the statistical models, the training data, the methods for minimizing false positives and adapting to new patterns. I spoke with passion and precision, using technical terms but explaining them clearly. I showed diagrams I had drawn by hand in the early stages of development, illustrating the data flow and system interactions. I answered every question Miss Chen and Mr. Lee threw at me, providing specific metrics, explaining design choices, and discussing future scalability challenges and how I plan to address them. The investors were engaged. They asked follow-up questions, challenged my assumptions, and debated technical points with me. It wasn't just a Q&A. It was a genuine technical discussion, a deep dive into the heart of Apex. Mark and David sat silently, watching. After nearly 30 minutes of intense technical discussion, Miss Chen leaned back, a satisfied expression on her face. "Thank you, Sarah," she said. "That was exactly the level of detail we needed. It's clear you understand this platform inside and out." Mr. Lee nodded in agreement. "Impressive work. The technical foundation is clearly robust and well thought out." The rest of the meeting shifted in tone. The investors seemed more confident, more interested. They asked more strategic questions now about market positioning and go-to-market strategy, but with the underlying confidence that the technology was sound. As the investors left, shaking hands and exchanging pleasantries, Mark and David approached me. "Well done, Sarah," Mark said, his voice flat. "You handled those technical questions effectively." "Thanks," I replied, gathering my binder of slides. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of having cut me out of the presentation, just a grudging recognition that I had saved the technical part of the pitch. David managed a tight smile. "Good job stepping in." Over the next few days, the office buzzed with quiet speculation. Everyone knew what had happened in that meeting, that the investors had specifically asked for the person who built Apex, and that person wasn't the one who had been scheduled to present the core technology. A week later, we received the news. The investors were in. They were providing the full funding round we had requested. The email from Ms. Chen to our CEO specifically mentioned the strength of the Apex platform's technical architecture and the confidence they gained from the detailed technical discussion during the pitch. My role on the Apex project shifted dramatically. I was formally recognized as the lead architect, given a promotion, and tasked with building out the development team. Mark remained head of innovation, and David continued as a project manager. But the hierarchy on the Apex project was clear. I was in charge of the technology. Mark and I maintained a professional working relationship, but there was an undeniable shift in dynamics. He no longer dismissed my technical insights. He deferred to them. David was more collaborative, seeking my input on project timelines and resource allocation. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. Corporate titles and presentation lineups might dictate who stands at the front of the room, but true expertise speaks for itself. When you build something with dedication and understanding, when you know your work inside and out, that knowledge becomes your most powerful advocate. They had cut me out of the pitch presentation, hoping to present my work as their own at a high level. But the investors, the people who understood the value of genuine innovation, didn't just want a high-level overview. They asked for the one who built it. And because I had been ready, because I knew my work intimately, that question became my opportunity.